Okay, everybody, this is a monumental day for the channel. How many videos have I started with that exact line in the past few weeks? I don't know, probably a lot. Everything is new in the new studio, so every video is a monumental occasion. But this is a super duper mega monumental occasion. You know why? Geography, that's why. Because this is the first episode of Geography is Everything in the new studio, which also gives me a perfect excuse to wear this. Keep calm, the geography professor is here. Oh yes, la da 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 da, Tekking101 magical transformation sequence. Geography! Okay, there we go. Oh yes, finally I'm wearing this hoodie. I can feel the raw power of geography in me. Everybody, reach out your hands. Give me the power of geography. Ah yes, I can feel it. I can feel it. Geography bomb! Ah! Okay, hi everybody, how you doing? Today's video, we're going to be talking about the seafaring restaurant, the Baratie, of course, located in the East Blue. It is Zeff's restaurant, as well as Sanji's as well. Zeff and Sanji both created the thing, and we'll be talking about it today. You know, I've said I wasn't really going to make geography videos about the islands in the East. I've kind of covered every island in the Grand Line so far, but the East Blue, I mean, like, there is Syrup Village, there's the Pole Star Islands where Logtown is, there's Kokoyashi, but it's like those places don't really have as much geography as the places in the Grand Line, of course. So, like, I could do a video on Syrup Village, but it would just be like, yeah, there's the bluff over there where Kuro attacked, and then there's Kaya's mansion, and there's Usopp's house, and I think there was a field with some sheep, and that was pretty much it, right? But the most interesting location, easily for me, in the East Blue that deserves a video is the Baratie, the seafaring restaurant, right? And you know what? I remember back watching One Piece in the 4Kids era. Ugh. But I'll be straight up, you know, when I was like 12 years old, I didn't really mind the 4Kids dub all that much. I didn't care that Sanji had a Brooklyn accent and he had the lollipop and everything like that, and everything was censored, you know? I was like 12 years old, I'm watching it, and I loved the concept of a restaurant floating in the middle of the ocean. Like the world building of that, like that's the kind of setup that, you know, the things we can look forward to in the One Piece world, and we're not even in the Grand Line yet. That was really fascinating to me, and I really took to it. And before Robin and Frankie were introduced into the story, Sanji was my favorite character, bar none. I love Sanji, right? Absolutely, you got to. So yeah, the Baratie, the story goes that Zeff, I guess for a really long time, had a dream of building a restaurant in the ocean. At least that's what he told Sanji when they were starving on that rock for like 60, 70 days. I don't know. He was probably pretty delirious at that point. I imagine Zeff, I mean, maybe when he was a little kid, he was like, Dad, I want to make a restaurant on the sea. And his dad was like a drunk, and he's just like, that's stupid. You're going to be a pirate. And Zeff's like, aw. And then he grew up to be a pirate. I mean, maybe that was his backstory. But no, I think it's more likely that Zeff, on just sitting on that rock for weeks and weeks on end, you know, with no food. I mean, after you eat your leg, I mean, what else is there really to go for? So he's just staring off into the horizon. Sun goes up, sun goes down, every single day, waiting for a ship to rescue them. I imagine he started to hallucinate, like, yeah, out there, I can see it. A 10-star restaurant that welcomes everyone as long as you have money. And you can go in and you can order a delicious filet mignon. Oh, yes. You know, and then eventually they did get saved from the rock, and he's like, Sanji, we're gonna build a restaurant, Sanji. Sanji's like 9 years old at this point. Zeff was like in his 50s. He's like, all right, old man, I think you're delirious and really dehydrated. We need to get you to a doctor. He's like, restaurant, Sanji. You and I are gonna build a restaurant together. You know? And we know, we skip over disappointingly a lot of how exactly the Baratie was built. Am I the only one that's interested in that? How do you go about building a restaurant in the middle of the ocean? Do you just go down to Home Depot in the East Blue and just like, I'm gonna buy some wood. Ah, what are you building today? Ah, seafaring restaurant. Thinking of making the head of it a giant fish. I'd be like, okay, sure, why not? Here you go. Thanks for shopping at Home Depot today. Right? Did they have to go to a bank? Did Zeff had to get all, like, you know, dressed up in the suit, and then Sanji, and then they go into a loan office or a bank or something and just be like, all right, Mr. Redfoot Zeff, is it? Says here you used to be a pirate captain that murdered hundreds, and then you decided to team up with this 9-year-old and open your own restaurant floating in the middle of the ocean. I just don't know if that's going to be a good investment on our part, you know? The building codes alone are all over the place. So I don't know how exactly they managed it, but they built the Baratie, and it looks pretty damn impressive, right? Absolutely, okay? Actually, you know what? I'll tell you probably the most likely turn of events on how he was able to build the restaurant is maybe he gathered the chefs first and then they all helped build it, okay? Because I think it was explained like the chefs that work at the Baratie, you know, they're all fighting cooks and everything like that, like Patty and Carne and everybody. So, you know, I think they were chefs that got kicked out of other restaurants because they would like brawl with the customers. Like you can picture it, like, you know, Patty is a pastier chef, okay? He's a pastry chef. So like you can imagine like he's making a cake and it's like, hey, Patty, one of the customers didn't like your cupcakes. He's like, oh, I'll show them. And he just starts beating the crap out of the customers or whatever, right? And so he gets fired. And maybe it's like a scene like from Black Clover with Yami or whatever. He's like, hey, join my guild. Hey, you could come and work at my restaurant. I mean, we have to build it still, but come and work at my restaurant, Patty and Carne. And so they joined up and they started working on the Baratie. So the Baratie, actually very interesting. It's one of the few locations in One Piece that's actually given a geographical region. That's right, geographical regions, like subdivisions of the blues exist. So you have the East Blue, and the Baratie exists in the Sambasa region of the East Blue. The Sambasa region. Oh, that sounds interesting. None of the other like parts of the East Blue are known, like the different regions or the other blues. Like, so they're like subdivided into different areas. I mean, it makes sense. You know, you wouldn't just say like I'm from the West Blue. It's like, yeah, the West Blue literally makes up a quarter size. That's like saying, oh yeah, I'm from North America. You know, there's a lot of locations in North America, right? So you have to like, you know, have like specific regions. So there's the Sambasa region. It's located in like the southern portion of the East, though. It's actually very close to the Calm Belt and the Grand Line, which was the reason why you'd have some strong customers like, you know, Krieg and Mihawk. Like when Krieg left the Grand Line in the Dreadnought Saber and managed to make it through the Calm Belt, like the Baratie was one of the first locations they came across. And then Mihawk was hot on their heels, and then he showed up there as well. You know, also the Dreadnought Saber, you know, once again, I'll say it, that was the coolest thing Krieg ever did, was name his ship the Dreadnought Saber, right? Actually, I don't even know if he named it, right? He's Krieg, so he would have just been like, this is my ship, big ship. Big, scary ship. Yeah, we'll name it that. And then maybe Geen was the one that's like, actually, Captain, maybe we should name it something more intimidating, like Dreadnought Saber. Ooh, that sounds cool, Geen. That's why I keep you around. I'm Krieg! Doesn't Krieg just mean war in German? I'm not sure, but if he does, oh, I see what you're doing there, Oda. I get it, I get it. I mean, it's a little dangerous, I'll give it to you, putting your restaurant not only in the middle of the ocean, but also next to the Calm Belt, which I remind you is a nesting area for giant sea kings, but, you know, that just proves the food at the Baratie cannot be surpassed. There are individuals living in the East Blue, and it's just like, oh yeah, you want to go eat out tonight, honey? It's like, okay, where do you want to go? Yeah, we could go to the Baratie. It's like, isn't that place that's right next to the giant sea monster nest, and if we make one wrong turn we can end up there? Like if the wind changes we end up in the Calm Belt and being devoured. It's like, yes, but have you tried their filet mignon? Have you tried their risotto? It is the best risotto in all 4 blues and the Grand Line. We will risk being devoured by a giant sea king the size of the Empire State Building if that is what it requires. Only the hardiest of the hardy and the most brave of the brave can dine at the Baratie. But yeah, this is what the Baratie looked like pre-time skip before it was renovated. After the time skip, I guess Zeff came into some money and he was able to fix it up a little bit, add some additions, some new ships along the way. But this was the original classic Baratie, you know what I mean? So you got the first floor of the Baratie, which is the dining room, a very elegant dining room, and then you have the spiral staircase that kind of extends upward, and the kitchen is on the second floor, which sounds a little kind of dangerous because in most restaurants that I've been to, the kitchen is usually on the same level as the, you know, dining room because it makes it easier to order your food and they just come out, the waiters, and they set your food down. So that means every waiter and I guess chef or whatever that wants to give food, you know, they have to go up the stairs to do the order, and then they have to walk all the way down this spiral staircase carrying platters of food. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of waiters and stuff that are capable of doing that or that are super talented. Sanji could definitely do it. The first time we get to see Sanji, he's carrying like a bunch of plates and then like a plate on his head. So like he was really, had a lot of balance and, dexterity with this kind of stuff. But I'm just like, I'm sure we've been to a few restaurants where it's just like, if that was the setup, it'd just be like, oh, I don't trust that. Oh, man. It's just like the whole thing just crashes down. So yeah, but still. And then one level above that, the third level above the kitchen was where the dorms were for all the chefs, because it's a seafaring restaurant. Obviously, all of the chefs and the waiters and busboys and the pastiers and everything have to live in the restaurant. And then the very, very top level is basically a house, and that's where Zeff lives. I also imagine, I don't know if we ever really find out. We see Sanji's room, but I don't think it was ever mentioned where it was. He probably just lived in the dorms along with the other chefs. Sanji was the sous chef, of course, second in command next to Zeff, okay? And so Zeff had his own house, essentially, at the top. That's where Luffy burst in by accident and ended up, seriously, like, giving Zeff, like, a concussion or whatever, and Zeff was like, you're gonna work as a busboy at this restaurant until you pay off your debt, kid. And Luffy's like, but I'm gonna be king of the pirates, and he's like, well, you're gonna be king of the plates now. That would have been a really interesting turn for One Piece. Like, we're a couple dozen chapters into the story, like 20 episodes into the anime, and then all of a sudden, Luffy has to give up on his dream for a whole year to be a busboy working at a restaurant. And Oda was like, let's say Oda actually stayed with that concept. He's like, no, you're not. I don't care if you saved my restaurant from Don Krieg or Geen or Mihawk or whoever. You're staying at this restaurant and you're being a busboy for a whole year. And then, like, the next 2 years serialized of the manga is just Luffy working at the restaurant, and then finally after it's over he's like, all right, you could go back out to sea, and the story resumes. It's like imagine the Chimera Ant arc in Hunter x Hunter, except it was Gon working as a newspaper delivery boy, and then after that we get back to the plot. Okay, that would have been interesting. Oh man. So let's talk about the name Baratie, okay? So, over the years, I don't really pay attention, but it's like, what does Baratie even stand for? Like, what is the, origin of that word, okay? So I went and looked it up. This is actually fascinating. I'm actually really cool that Oda did this. The origin of Baratie, apparently, is an actual restaurant that Oda worked at part-time. I guess back before, obviously before One Piece became serialized, this might have been when he was working on, like, his one-shots, like Romance Dawn or Monsters, or it might have been even before that. I didn't get an exact timeline. He might have worked at this restaurant when he was in high school, for all I know. But Oda worked at a restaurant in Japan called Baratie. Not Baratie, Baratie. It means Rose Arbor. And just out of curiosity, I'm like, okay, is this place, like, I had no idea. It sounded really fancy, so it didn't sound like a burger joint to me, like a fast food restaurant. So just out of curiosity, I looked it up on Google. By the way, there was an actual Baratie restaurant, because of course there was. It's permanently closed according to Google, but it used to exist. You could walk into the fish head, for God's sake. But no, I wanted to find out if this Baratie restaurant still existed, and I looked it up, and there is a restaurant called Baratie in Kumamoto, Japan, and that is of course where Oda is from. So I assume it's the same restaurant. I have no idea if it is, though. I don't know if there's like multiple ones of the Baraties, or, if it was, like, renovated since Oda worked there, or when he worked there. I have no idea. I just know that he used to work at a restaurant called Baratie, Rose Arbor, and he was from Kumamoto, Japan, and there is a restaurant of that name in Kumamoto, Japan, so I'm assuming it's the same one, right? And we know he's from Kumamoto. Of course, he did that whole Kumamoto restoration project. I should still do a video about that, like just a video focused on the Kumamoto restoration with the One Piece statues. That's incredible. Because of Oda's efforts, we now have a golden-plated statue of Robin and Nami and Frankie and this badass one of Brook that will stand for all time. Minor tangent on that one. I would love so much, how, like, in disaster movies when, like, humanity gets wiped out by, like, some sort of, like, nuclear war or something, and then, like, aliens come to the planet and they're just like, ooh, look at the remnants of this former civilization. I would love so damn much if these statues of the One Piece characters of the Straw Hats were the only things to survive the, like, nuclear war, right? And so if aliens, like, tens of thousands of years from now come to our planet, they just see made these, and they assumed that's what we looked like. Like that, oh, the life forms on this planet looked very strange. You know, this one apparently was a skeleton. This one apparently was a robot. You know, like that would be so great if that was like our legacy as humanity. I would be okay with that 100%. Anyway, going back to the restaurant though, this is the Baratie restaurant that Oda might have worked at, and as you can see, it's a pretty fancy restaurant. You know, a Denny's or an IHOP, this is not. This is some good food fare. Oh, I should warn you right now, before I continue the rest of this video, I should have said this at the beginning, I'm sorry, and that is, if you're hungry, you should go get some food right now. Like, pause the video if you're thinking about eating lunch or dinner or breakfast, I don't know, whatever time of the day you're watching this. If you're like, man, I'm kind of hungry. Oh, Tekking put out a video. I'll watch that first, then I'll go get some food. No, no, no. Pause the video, go get some food, and come back and watch the video while eating, because that's what I had to do. I usually don't eat my lunch until after I'm done, you know, filming the video. Usually I'll prepare the video, film it, and then I'll eat my lunch, and then I'll edit. But this time I couldn't do that. I was like gathering all the images from the Baratie, and I'm like, oh my god, that steak looks delicious. Oh my god, look at that. And so I had to stop and go eat, and now I'm doing this. Okay, so I would recommend that 100%. Even just go grab a snack. Go grab some Teddy Grahams or something. Alright, so that's the origin of the Baratie, alright? It's the Baratie that Oda worked at. So it was a place he actually worked at in real life that he incorporated forever in the One Piece lore. That's pretty cool, okay? So the Baratie has some battle additions and accoutrements to it. It makes sense given the fact that, you know, Zeff makes a point to feed and, you know, cook for whoever were to show up. If they're a paying customer, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if they're a Marine or a revolutionary or a civilian or a pirate. It doesn't matter. Big Mom herself could show up to the front door of the Baratie, which, you know what? That could actually be a little story arc in and of itself. But anyway, Big Mom shows up to the front door of the Baratie. If she's got money, if she's willing to pay, like, Mama! It's like, oh no, Zeff, it's insane! Big Mom, one of the Yonko is out there! Zeff would just get up, take a big puff of his pipe. I don't think he smokes a pipe, but whatever, he does now. Smokes his pipe, and he's like, does she got money? It's like, hold on, I'll check. Ma'am, is this gonna be cash or credit? Like, they poke their head out of the Baratie. Miss Big Mom, ma'am, cash or credit? Mama. Oh, I have some treasure I can pay you in. Oh, okay, yeah, she's got treasure. All right, let her in. Let's feed her. Come on, boys. We're cooking for the mountain whale today. Let's do it. You know, let's just get to it. All right. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's Zeff's policy. That's what he does, right? Okay. So, you know, if that's the case, now when Gin came in, Gin didn't have any money, so that's why they didn't serve him, and Sanji kind of took pity on him and served him, right? But because of that reason, you have to understand that there's some pirates that are gonna be assholes, that are gonna be like, you know, pretty nice sea restaurant you got here, old man. Would be a shame if someone murdered everybody and robbed the cash drawer. Yarg! And then Zeff has to be like, oh man, you're gonna do this shit today. We just mopped the floors. Like, all right, and so you got the cooks already that they know how to fight. They got giant cooking utensils like a giant fork, a giant spork. You know, you will be afraid of the man with the giant, you know, pastry spatula, okay? He can mess you up with that thing, right? Also, Patty had his, like, lobster cannon thing he kept in a cabinet in the center of the restaurant. It wasn't even locked. I love that. That's like if you walk into a Denny's and you go sit down and then, like, right next to your freaking table, there's just like an RPG just sitting there on the wall that like anybody can just grab, you know? So Patty's like, all right, Krieg walks in, he's like, I got this, takes out this giant bazooka shaped like a lobster or like a crayfish or something, and he's like, take this, meatball of death, boom! And of course, Krieg's got all the armor, so it doesn't harm him, but that's something they got. The head of the fish, of the Baratie, actually can detach, and it's not a paddle ship. I mean, it's a paddle ship, but it's powered by pedals, like a bike. So Patty and Carne have to get into the ship and just, like, start pedaling like crazy, and the ship goes out, and there's, like, cannons attached, and they can, like, blast ships apart and everything like that. The underside of the Baratie, and this isn't just for anime fight scenes, this is also for, like, a practical reason, because when you build a restaurant in the middle of the ocean, this is what I say about getting a loan out, because I think there's a few building codes that this might violate. You know, actually, I'm curious. I'm curious, because I feel like there are restaurants that exist in our world that are on the ocean, on like a boat or like a houseboat or something. Actually, I remember reading once about a restaurant No shit, I think this was a real thing that you actually had to go diving underwater in order to gain access to. Like, no kidding. Like, it was literally like you had to put on, like, scuba gear and then dive underwater. And then you go down, and the restaurant was underwater, and the entrance was like you had to go up and under and then get into the restaurant that way. And it was like a whole restaurant that was under the ocean, and you could just, eat and, whatever, and then you had to leave. And I'm like, I'm serious. I think that was a real thing. I don't know if it's still open. I don't know where it was, but I'm pretty sure that was a real restaurant. I'm curious about, like, how that would even work. So they used that in order to fight against Krieg and everybody, and they kind of wrecked the entire restaurant. But you know what? I guess, not Krieg, I guess Zeff had pretty good insurance on that thing, because maybe it was after the destruction of the Baratie, the insurance money that he gets. He's like, yeah, so Don Krieg attacked, and he, like, destroyed most of my restaurant, blasted a giant hole in it and everything, and he got the insurance check, and then he went and he did the renovations that we see after the time skip. Took a while for the insurance to clear, but he's like, all right, I'm gonna do some renovations to the Baratie, okay? So after the time skip, when we get the Decks of the World little cover series, we see 3 separate cover spreads of the Baratie and how it's changed. So the first one, we see Zeff hanging out in front of the Baratie. It has way more levels now, so I'm imagining just adding, like, maybe more dining rooms, maybe more dorms for the chefs, obviously, more cooks are working for them, and a bigger kitchen, okay? But not only that, they also have 2 additional ships that are, like, around the Baratie. So one of them is the sister ship Anko, which is the dessert ship, or the Desert ship. Okay, I think Patty might have, if he was the one to design it, it's kind of funny because his apron says desert and the door to it says DESSRT. So maybe he was so busy, like, ah, yes, we're going to make it look like a giant anglerfish, and we're going to have the oxygen supply over there, and the pasture stations are going to be over there, and then, like, last minute he forgot to write the name, so he just did it in a hurry and he misspelled it. So whatever, that spells good. That's like you go to a burger place and it's just like, burger? Huh. All right, I could go for a burger today. Why not? You go in there. So it's a ship very much like that underwater restaurant. In fact, maybe Oda took that from inspiration. So you go underwater, and it's shaped like an anglerfish. Those really terrifying things that live at the bottom of the ocean. Ah, teeth. Anko, the name of the ship, means monkfish in Japanese, which I originally assumed, hey, Zeff is a fan of RuneScape, fishing for monkfish. That's cool, but no, monkfish are a real thing, and they look equally terrifying as every bit as the anglerfish. And so that's Patty's ship. Like, he basically controls that. That's like the dessert station for the Baratie. And I imagine there's a way to get to it, like, so it's docked, like, under the Baratie, and it also probably works to stabilize the main ship, but it's like, okay, you go into the Baratie, you sit down, you eat your steak, and it's like, would you like some carrot cake? And it's like, please follow the staircase or the elevator downstairs to our sister ship, Anko, and we will provide you with the most delicious carrot cake you've ever had. And so you go down there, and, Carrot made the cake, and then you eat the cake, and it's delicious, right? Of course. I think Carrot would make a pretty good pastry chef. I think she'd be okay, right? After maybe she doesn't travel with the straw hats. Okay, if she doesn't become a straw hat, can we at least get Carrot as a pastry chef working at the Baratie? Kind of a weird thing, but, like, all right, why not? All right. Then we have another ship that's captained by Carne, and Carne was, like, the meat chef at the Baratie. He was in charge of, like, the grilling stations and everything, and his ship is the Nasu Gasira, but it's the teppanyaki vessel. Okay, so teppen means, like, iron plate, and then yaki means to grill or fry, takoyaki, so it's teppanyaki. So it's any sort of, like, it's like a big grill that you grill or you fry meat on, okay? That's what it is, okay? So he's the meat vessel, and the funny thing about this vessel is the name literally translates to eggplant head. Nasu meaning eggplant, okay? And because Zeff always called Sanji, like, you shitty eggplant or whatever, and so the front of the ship is based off of Sanji's first wanted poster, the one that was just the drawing. They literally took that, and they built a ship with that as the figurehead. I cannot wait until Sanji returns to the Baratie. After the adventure is over, after he's come to terms with who he was as a Germa, he's got his powered up body, he finds the All Blue, he comes back to the Baratie, he's all happy, he's waiting to tell the old man he's found it. I found the All Blue, old man. Also, I'm a cyborg kinda now. And then the first thing he sees when he arrives at the Baratie is this thing, this monstrosity, which is hilarious because obviously the cooks all rib each other. Well, they rib each other, get it? Because they also cook ribs. But they rib each other, just like, Sanji, look at his wanted poster. It looks just like him, I swear. So they like to mess with each other. That's what they do. So it would be so great just to see their reaction. Like, as soon as Sanji shows back up, you know, Patty and Carne would be off to the side with a camera. Like, wait, we have to get his first reaction. We have to get his first reaction. Do not miss the freaking picture. And then Sanji's just like, hey guys, I'm back. What? And he's like, click. Man, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. And it's great because Sanji, you know, after the time skip, after Dressrosa, his wanted poster has been updated. So it's no longer the drawing. It looks like him, right? It says Sanji Vinsmoke, which he doesn't like, but at least it's no longer the drawing. So he probably put that out of his memory. He's probably like, oh, okay, thank God. At least they have a real picture of me. It's not the drawing anymore. I can put that behind me. And then he goes back home, and forever immortalized on where he works is that thing, right? So that's pretty funny there. But yeah, that's the Baratie and the two sister ships and the chefs and Zeff and everything and how it's kind of structured. We cut back to it a little bit there during Totland. We saw what was up there with Zeff, and they're still doing what they do. And yeah, Sanji will most definitely return there after finding the All Blue. Hell, maybe if it's the theory that the Red Line is destroyed, maybe the Baratie can just dock itself wherever the All Blue is. Like, so Reverse Mountain or Marijois might, like, blow up or collapse by the end of the story, making one ocean, one piece, right? This theory's been around there for a while by a bunch of different people. So if that happens, maybe Zeff just takes the Baratie, parks it right in the All Blue, and then boom, there you go. That would be kind of a dick move, though, a little bit, you know, because it's kind of like, you know, they discover the All Blue, like, oh man, look at this majestic ocean. It's like a heaven of fish and like all these creatures from all the world coming together and coexisting in one ocean. The sight of it is absolutely beautiful. Poets could work for 100 years and they could not properly encapsulate the beauty of the All Blue. And then the Baratie just shows up with Zeff and he's like, all right, everybody, open the shrimp frying station. Let's do this. Come on. Start fishing out. They take giant nets. They start fishing everything out of the All Blue. It's like, all right, Patty, you know, you start working on the cakes. Carne, oh man, those are some big fish over there. You start frying them up. I'll get to work over here on the lobster. Right? It's like, that'd be like Mr. Krabs. That'd be like the way Mr. Krabs would do it, right? Mr. Krabs finds the All Blue. He would have 17 Krusty Krabs opened by that night. You know, like ready to go, you know, ready to sell everything. Okay. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the very first Geography is Everything in the new studio. Keep calm and think of geography. Oh, we also have dinosaur facts. That's right. I don't know if you know this, but dinosaurs used to live on our planet. It didn't quite look like this, but they used to live on our planet, and so it's still part of geography. I wonder what dinosaurs thought of geography. You know, if I ever get a time machine and I can go back to the Cretaceous period, I think that's what the first question I would ask the first dinosaur I see. You're like, what do you think of this? You know, what do you think of this globe, you know? All right, so today's dinosaur facts, dun 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 dun, is, this is a cool name to say, the Rhino Rex. Dun, 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 it's the Rhino Rex. That sounds like a pretty cool name for a band. This is our band name, Rhino Rex. All right, so the Rhino Rex is a hadrosaur, and we'll get to that in a second, and it lived during the late Cretaceous period. It started to pop up around 75 million years ago. I may remind you that the meteor hit around 65 million years ago. So these were, you know, one of the last dinosaurs to really evolve and get to that point. I mean, they, you know, were around for about 10 million years, which is pretty impressive, but, you know, meteor. Okay. Hadrosaurs are duck-billed dinosaurs. So that's right. Even back in the day, you thought I was kidding about the giant duck. No, there were giant duck dinosaurs. And they had, you know, not Duck Dynasty, duck dinosaurs. And they had duck bills, and that's how they would use to, like, scoop up, you know, things from the soil, like ants and insects, and they would eat that way and stuff like that. Lived in the late Cretaceous, and the name literally translates to, so Rhino Rex literally translates to Nose King in Greek. So then you start thinking, Nose King, huh? So, God Usopp also existed during this time period and rode around on the Rhino Rexes. This is all starting to make sense. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of, like, you know, fossil records relating to the Rhino Rex, but there's a similar dinosaur called the Gyroposaurus? I don't know how to pronounce some of these. I'm going to butcher a lot of these as we go. Do you know how long it took me to learn Pachycephalosaurus? Long time. But now it's one of the most fun words to say. Pachycephalosaurus. Pachycephalosaurus. Hey, have you seen Oltie's Pachycephalosaurus form? There you go. But yeah, the Gyroposaurus, it's also a duck-billed dinosaur, a hadrosaur, and it was very, very closely related to the Rhino Rex. So they assume that it was like basically the same kind of dinosaur, very similar in appearance. Maybe size might have been a bit different. Maybe the bill might have been shaped a little differently. But all in all, it's a very similar kind of dinosaur. I just pretty much wanted to talk about that one today because the name is cool. So, you know, that's where I'm going to basically take this. If the design of the dinosaur looks weird or cool, or if the name sounds weird or cool. That's what I'm going to go with, right? Anyway, thanks for watching. That was Dinosaur Facts. This has been Tekking and Barry and Geography signing out. Later, everybody.